What's going on right now is there's been a sell-off in the bond market due to the increased supply of money. M2 right now has increased 40%. M2 money supply is the money that's in checking, savings accounts, things that are readily accessible. And if the number of dollars is increased by 40%, chasing less goods, the prices of those goods is going to go up.
So today we're talking about mortgage rates with Brent Starts, Unitas Lending. What's happening in the market right now? Rates are going up and down. The bond's been kind of hitting the floor and all over the place. We're seeing the stock market shaking out a little bit. So where are we heading this year on rates? So today I brought in Brent Starts and he's going to explain it all to us.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lee, for having me on. Well, today, yes, we're going to cover the recent increase. I mean, we got to tell that today's date, actually. So yeah, that's how much it's changing. What are we, the 24th, 25th, 25th. And so, 25th of January. And, so what's going on right now is there's been a sell-off in the bond market due to the increased supply of money. M2 right now has increased 40%. M2 money supply is the money that's in checking, savings accounts, things that are readily accessible. And if the number of dollars is increased by 40%, chasing less goods, the prices of those goods is going to go up. And the same is true of interest rates. So that's a force that's pressuring rates up. And if you've heard this, the phrase, buy the rumor, sell the news type of thing, the rumor, basically the banks, the investment banks all came out and they're predicting 3, 4, and as many as 5 increases in the Fed funds rate here in the next year, the next 12 months. And so that rumor, that's those articles, not the actual raising of interest rates by the Fed, has spawned on this recent sell-off. And so we're seeing the bond drop, which has a counter relationship, an inverse relationship with interest rates. And so we've seen the average rate around 3.2 go to 3.7 roughly in the last 2 weeks.
Now, do we think that those rates are going to come back down?
In the media, they are, Lee, and there was an immediate knee-jerk response to those news stories coming out. Some the Federal Reserve governors were going out and making speeches, and that's what triggered it about 2 weeks ago. And about 3 or 4 business days ago, we started to see the bond start to recover. And so now it's trading in a range. So we've seen some improvement actually in the last 3 days. But right now, it's just a real volatile situation. The Fed meeting ends tomorrow afternoon and the press conference at 2 o'clock. So we're locking ahead of that potentially market moving event to lock in some gains in the last 3 days. And after that point, we'll see if it trades in a channel. And a lot of it will be on that press conference at 2 o'clock tomorrow.
Do you think Powell will get back into buying back bonds like they were? I mean, like I'm in Walmart last night. The shelves are empty. The CEO of Walmart came out last week, I think it was last week, and made a comment that, last time he saw shelves this empty, he was in Russia during the Cold War. So we're looking at empty shelves, but 7% inflation. That's a scary situation for the country to be in right now. I don't think in our lifetime we've ever seen this. So when I was a kid, I remember going in the car with my dad and him griping about the gas prices during Carter and the big long lines and the gas lines and all that. You remember, you're a tad older than me, but So, how do you think all of this is going to affect rates? And do you think that the Fed could do something like buy back bonds to keep the stock market from falling anymore?
Wow, great questions. Yes, and all those things impact interest rates, geopolitical events, what's going on in Ukraine and Russia right now. Anything that spooks the markets is causing a sell-off in stocks, and more often than not, they run to the safety of bonds, that guaranteed rate of return, and so it's a flight to safety. And so we see some of that, which actually improves rates. I say a bad news in the world is good news for interest rates, and it's unfortunate, but that's typically the relationship there. The big event of the last 2 years is COVID, and that's a daily swing in the news. We have a vaccine, we don't have a vaccine, they work, they don't work, and so regardless of your position on those things, it creates uncertainty, and consumer sentiment becomes an issue, and so we're seeing that play out as well. So really, whatever garners the news headlines for the day tends to drive interest rates, frankly. In the big picture, we've got to keep in mind, I am a little older than you, Lee, and so I did live through the gasoline lines and things of the 70s. I was a little kid at the time, but I did see that, and I recall that. There were a couple of gas stations this week that had no gasoline in my area. And I saw an increase from yesterday of 20 cents a gallon this morning as I was driving into work. So things like that, we're beginning to see those things, empty shelves. So those types of things are certainly concerning. When you see those things and the public sentiment is affected by those things, and you can't underestimate the emotions of people in the marketplace. And when things start to let loose a little bit, it can start to spiral. And so I think that's the concern, everything on high alert as far as that. And one of the things we do is we watch interest rates in real time. So we can lock our pipeline, and we have about a 10 to 15 minute lead time on a series of, like, when it breaks through support, a bond level support, and you know how that works, the candlesticks, that type of thing. We have a lead time where we can lock our pipeline in the event rates increase quickly. But generally speaking, we're seeing improvement this week, which is great. And we've got to remember, in the big picture, rates are historically low, right?
Historically low. I mean, the last 10-year rates before 2019 were in the fours. So
that's right. And I think the average somewhere between 6 and 7% is normal over the last 70 years.
Right.
So, we kind of have to remember that historically we're in a very low rate environment. And I think we have to remain in that environment to some degree, where the Fed has no choice but to buy bonds, because we've got to pay this debt back, right? All this money we're printing is debt. And so, and leaving that to future generations, we can't, and then we'd have the risk of, frankly, hyperinflation so we're the Fed's in a tough spot. They're in a very tough spot. They've got to walk a fine line now to keep things together.
I mean, right, because they haven't really raised rates yet.
No.
So we're seeing, where are we landing right now as of today, as far as interest rates go?
Yeah. So about a week and a half, I guess, like today's January 25th. A week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we were at 3.2, 3.25 on a conventional loan, 20% down, straight ahead, decent credit, that type of borrower. That same borrower is probably close to 3.7 right now. We have options up and down the rate sheet. They can buy the rate down, they can raise the rate and help cover closing costs, defer those closing costs. We have options that way, but very generally, it's a full half point increase just in the last 2 weeks. And we're seeing slight improvements the last 2 or 3 days. We're down to like 3.6 right now. And so, that's where it is right now. So it's definitely coming. Rates are going to go up, and I just don't see them going up drastically. I don't see 8% rates or anything like that in the next 2 years, right?
But don't you think this is a drastic move on rates right now? I mean, just in a short period of time?
That's very rare. Exactly. That's a great point. Historically speaking, that's going to take a year to see a half point increase typically. And rates tend to go up faster than they do come down, right? It's a risk that they're building into the marketplace, knowing that rates are going up, so the market reacts more quickly, as opposed to dropping rates, which takes much more time.
So it's a real problem right now in Port St. Lucie for buyers in the city. We've noticed that. We've been working that market for a long time, you and I together. And so right now, prices, I think, have priced out people in Port St. Lucie to a point that if you live there and if you're moving to new construction. So that's most of the sales, or you're moving out of the area. Some people may be upsizing or downsizing, but most people are moving to new construction or moving out of the area. And then the majority of the buyers in Port St. Lucie that I'm seeing right now are coming from somewhere else where they're selling their homes for more money and coming down here and purchasing with all that purchasing power they have from the other state that they live in. So with rates going up, it exacerbates that issue, because a 0.5% rate increase that really affects your payment.
It does. The affordability index is what we're talking about here, and when we raise interest rates, obviously the same home costs more, and incomes must keep up with the rate increases, and I think we need to see that, and we're starting to see payroll inflation, labor inflation. We're starting to see payroll start to go up because there is such demand there's so many open jobs aren't being filled, and employees are naming their price right now. So we're seeing a little bit of that dynamic. And of course that translates into higher retail costs as well in the marketplace as well. So that's got to be offset. So the danger is a spiral, right? And so, the affordability index for people locally there in Port St. Lucie is beginning to be a problem. I spoke with someone yesterday that's down in Miami, and they were selling their home for $200,000 more than they paid for it a year and a half ago.
Oh, it's crazy down there. I mean, South Florida, there's no inventory in South Florida right now. Port St. Lucie is just a little pocket right now where there's some inventory.
Right, absolutely. It's a little pocket, and it's an affordable pocket. And I came from California 11 years ago, as you know, Lee. And when you move here from somewhere else and you're in a heavily taxed state, it's like you've reached paradise. I mean, it's, the first time you do your taxes, when you register your car, every time you turn around, it's something that's way less expensive than what you're used to. So it's still a bargain, comparatively speaking. The people in Port St. Lucie right now, they're saying, my goodness, how are we going to afford a home anymore? These prices are ridiculous. And the same price is presented to someone in California, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and it's a bargain, and then you throw in all the benefits of living in Florida, and it's hard to beat.
Where do you see this? Where do you feel this is going? Where do you feel rates are heading right now? I mean, do you think that people should, if you want to buy a home, you should run out and buy a home right now because rates are on the rise? So if you're on a fixed budget, do it sooner than later. Is that your opinion? Or do you think that rates are going to come down a little bit, but not that enough to make a difference with housing prices continuing to go up? Because even though we're seeing less bidding wars right now, homes are still selling. So in Port St. Lucie, and even if the market goes back to pre-COVID, we're still looking at 10% a year and increasing in the real estate market there. But I think right now, everyone's selling their homes. So, and I said this in a previous video, that everyone's selling their homes. All the calls we're getting every day right now from our YouTube side is, we're selling our home, we're coming to Port St. Lucie. We're selling our home, we're coming to Port St. Lucie. And these are people from California, from Texas, from New York, and they're selling their home for way more. I mean, a couple just called me. They're outside of San Francisco. They've been there for 40 years. I can't even imagine what they're selling that house for. But They're coming here and they're paying cash for brand new construction.
Yeah, in 6 months, they could even be higher. Absolutely. I think it's not going to be an enormous difference, but I do believe rates, generally speaking, over the next 12 months will be going up. In that 12 months, there's going to be pockets of time where they improve, and we just have to watch the pipeline that's what I do in real time. And then we lock the opportunities, right? In the big picture, some people that I'm working with right now are buying investment properties because they can't leave a job. They're in California or can't leave their job. They have to physically be there, but they're looking to purchase investment property here. One of the things I would say to that, and I think you'd agree with me, here we can have a positive cash flow on a property where that's unheard of. Like where I'm from initially, I was raised in Ohio on a farm, and I moved to California, in my mid-20s. And lived there for 23 years. And the notion that you could actually buy a home in California and rent it out for the payment was unthought. That was just impossible. You move to Florida and you could buy a home, rent it out, and actually make money.
Right.
Which is different. So Florida is going to survive any type of leveling out, because I think the market can't keep the sustained pace of 20-30% a year in appreciation, what we've seen in the last 12 months or so. I think that it'll start to level out, but I think it'll continue to be on the positive side. I don't see any drop in real estate because of the demand from other states. Because of the attractiveness of Florida to own a business here is I've owned a business here for 11 years. And I got to tell you, compared to California, there are many benefits to owning a business here. And so I think that secret's kind of getting out. And I think that we'll see an influx of people coming from the Northeast, from the West Coast, because of the opportunity that way, the climate. And I think that'll hold our values substantially better than other areas.
Well, to wrap this up a little bit, my partner Ray, we do commercial real estate together. I mean, right now, him and his buddies are running around buying up as much land as they possibly can and putting it under contract in Port St. Lucie to list, because and even Fort Pierce, because right now, the commercial side of things in Port St. Lucie and Fort Pierce are just exploding. All you have to do is just drive through Tradition and you'll get off at Becker Road in 95 and you'll see it. I mean, it's just unbelievable, like the difference in the changes in a year. So we'll cover the loan on investment property and how that can work for folks. We do have a video. We'll tag that video at the end of this segment. But if you'll come back in 2 weeks, we'll talk about that and whatever else is going on, and try to keep people updated on the market every couple of weeks with you talking about what's happening with money and mortgages.
Sounds great.
All right. So, and again, if this is the first time you've been to our site, please don't forget to slap that subscribe button right there and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. And you can watch our next video on the rental market and how you can get into it right there. Be kind to each other, and we'll see you next time.